I watched as my 13-year-old niece Emma ripped open the glossy gift wrap, her eyes widening at the $850 phone I had saved for months to buy her. Then came the words that shattered my world. She giggled, looking around at the party guests, and said, "Mom says if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." The room erupted in laughter. All 30 relatives found it hilarious, except me. I maintained my frozen smile while something broke permanently inside me. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. Before I dive into my story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. Stay with me to see what happens when your family finally pushes you too far. I had always been the reliable one in our family. At 35, I had built a successful career as a tech consultant, working 60-hour weeks to afford the luxury of supporting those I loved. My sister Amanda, 7 years younger, had always been the family favorite with her outgoing personality and picture-perfect family despite her constant financial struggles. Our relationship had a complicated history. When Amanda went through a messy divorce 3 years ago, I was there without hesitation, covering her mortgage payments for 8 months. I paid the tuition for Emma to continue attending her private school, not wanting my niece to suffer additional disruptions during an already difficult time. When our parents faced unexpected medical bills last year, I liquidated one of my investment accounts to ensure they received the best care possible. My own personal life stood in stark contrast to my financial success. Following a divorce 5 years earlier that left me emotionally drained, I had thrown myself into two things: my career and being available for my family. I lived alone in a comfortable but modest apartment. My evenings typically spent responding to work emails or taking calls from family members needing assistance. Dating seemed impossible with my schedule, and friendships had gradually faded as I prioritized family obligations. The signs that I was being taken for granted had been accumulating. My birthday last month passed without acknowledgement until 3 days later, when Amanda called to apologize, explaining she had been just so busy with Emma's school activities. When the family planned a weekend trip to the coast, I discovered it accidentally through social media posts, having never received an invitation. Most telling were the patterns in communication. My phone only rang when someone needed money advice on a technical problem or a last-minute favor. Despite everything, I maintained hope. I believed that my generosity would eventually be recognized and appreciated. I told myself that family was about unconditional support, and that the satisfaction of helping those I loved was reward enough. This mindset led me to spend hours researching the perfect gift for Emma's 13th birthday, wanting to make her transition to teenage years special with the latest smartphone model that all her friends coveted. The day of the party arrived, and I felt genuine excitement as I drove to my sister's suburban home, the carefully wrapped package on the passenger seat beside me. The warm June sunshine seemed like a good omen, and I allowed myself to imagine Emma's delight when she opened my gift. Perhaps this would be the moment that shifted something in our family dynamic, when they would finally see how much I cared. I arrived at Amanda's house an hour early, as requested, to help with party preparations. The driveway was already lined with vehicles, and I had to park nearly a block away. Balancing the gift box in one hand and a bag of ice in the other, I made my way to the front door, which stood open to welcome guests. "Oh, good. You brought the ice," Amanda said, as her greeting, barely looking up from the fruit tray she was arranging. "Can you set up the drink station in the backyard? The folding table is still in the garage. Dad was supposed to do it, but he got distracted talking about golf with Uncle Paul." I swallowed my disappointment at the lukewarm welcome and nodded. "Sure thing. Where should I put this?" I held up the wrapped gift. "Just add it to the pile on the dining room table," she replied, already turning away to call instructions to someone in the kitchen. For the next 45 minutes, I moved between tasks, setting up tables, filling coolers with drinks, and helping arrange food platters. Various relatives arrived, offering brief hellos before gravitating toward more animated conversations elsewhere. My cousin Mark, an investment banker who visited from Chicago maybe once a year, received enthusiastic greetings and was immediately surrounded by family members eager to hear about his recent promotion. When Emma finally made her grand entrance, wearing a new dress and looking surprisingly mature with subtle makeup, my heart lifted. She hugged various relatives, accepting birthday wishes with the slightly embarrassed grace of a new teenager. I waited for her to notice me, but she moved through the crowd without glancing in my direction. The party migrated to the backyard where Amanda had created an elaborate setup with strings of lights, balloons, and a table for Emma to open gifts surrounded by an audience. I found a spot toward the back, nursing a soda and watching as Emma began the process of opening presents with a photographer cousin documenting every reaction. She received clothes, gift cards, jewelry, and books expressing appropriate enthusiasm for each item. When she finally reached for my package, I felt a flutter of anticipation. The conversation in the yard quieted slightly as she removed the wrapping paper and opened the box. "Oh my God," she squealed, lifting the phone out. "This is the new Galaxy model. These cost like $1,000. For a brief, wonderful moment, I saw genuine excitement on her face. Then she looked up not at me but at her circle of friends and relatives. "This is from Uncle Sienna," she announced. And then came those devastating words, delivered with a giggling, conspiratorial tone. "Mom says if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." The statement hung in the air for a split second, before laughter rippled through the crowd. My sister snorted into her wine glass. Our parents chuckled along with everyone else. All 30 guests seemed to find the comment hilarious, a testament to some shared understanding about my place in the family. I maintained my smile through sheer force of will, even managing a small laugh that felt like swallowing glass. Inside, something crumbled. The confirmation of my worst fears, spoken so casually by my niece, created a physical sensation like being punched in the stomach. "Excuse me," I murmured to no one in particular, setting down my drink and walking with measured steps toward the house. Once inside, I locked myself in the downstairs bathroom, gripping the edge of the sink as I stared at my reflection. The face that looked back appeared normal on the surface, perhaps slightly pale, but my eyes held a realization that was transforming something fundamental within me. Years of sacrifices, of rearranging my life to accommodate everyone else's needs, of being the family safety net without recognition, all crystallized into a single clear thought: I deserved better. Taking several deep breaths, I splashed cold water on my face and dried it with a decorative hand towel that I had probably paid for during one of Amanda's home redecoration projects. I straightened my shoulders and returned to the party, now viewing the gathering through entirely different eyes. For the next 2 hours, I observed my family with newfound clarity. Every interaction now seemed colored by the revelation that had been hiding in plain sight. I was invisible except when needed, a walking resource rather than a person with feelings and needs of his own. Amanda cornered me by the dessert table, glass of wine in hand. "Emma needs a new laptop for school this fall," she mentioned casually. "The one she has is practically ancient, and they require something with better processing speed for the advanced programming class she wants to take." "Is that so?" I replied, my voice neutral, while my mind calculated the thousands of dollars I had already spent on Emma this year alone. "I was thinking we could look at options next week." She continued, clearly interpreting my response as agreement. "Oh, and before you leave today, I need to talk to you about her summer camp deposit. It is due by Friday." As she walked away, I overheard her speaking to our Aunt Beth. "Thank goodness Sienna is always so generous with his money. Not like he has anything else to spend it on with no family of his own." The comment sent me into a mental inventory of exactly how much financial support I provided to my sister and her daughter. I paid 2/3 of Amanda's mortgage each month after she refinanced following her divorce. The car she drove had been purchased with my down payment. I covered all their cell phone bills as part of my family plan, paid for multiple streaming services and online subscriptions they used, and frequently covered utility bills when Amanda claimed to be short that month. Across the yard, I spotted Emma showing off her new phone to her friends, the initial excitement already fading as she tossed it carelessly onto the table to return to the conversation. The $850 gift that had required me to postpone repairs on my own car now sat unattended screen, already smudged with fingerprints. While sitting at one of the outdoor tables picking at a piece of cake I had no appetite for, I discreetly took out my own phone. With methodical calm, I began the process of financial separation. 2 taps and my banking app opened. I suspended all automatic payments to external accounts. Next, I logged into the cell phone carrier account and initiated the process to remove the extra lines. One by one, I disabled access to entertainment subscriptions and digital services. The weight that had pressed on my chest since Emma's comment began to lift slightly as I took these first steps. Around me, the party continued, no one noticing my quiet revolution. The irony was not lost on me that my sister's words repeated by my niece were proving prophetic. Even as I made decisions that would significantly impact their lives, no one noticed anything different about me. Dinner was served buffet style, and I joined the line loading a plate with food I knew I would barely touch. I found a seat at a table with distant relatives who chatted around me as if I were invisible. Occasionally, someone would ask a perfunctory question about my work only to interrupt with their own anecdote before I could fully respond. The sun began to set, bathing the yard in golden light that contrasted with the coldness growing inside me. My anger had transformed into something more powerful: resolution. Each dismissive comment and thoughtless interaction strengthened my determination to change the dynamics that had trapped me for years. Later in the evening, as the party began to wind down, I observed Amanda speaking animatedly with our cousin Jennifer, both of them several glasses of wine past sober. Sienna is basically like an ATM without feelings. Amanda slurred loud enough for several people nearby to hear. Just punch. In the right code. And out comes the cash. Jennifer laughed appreciatively, adding, at least ATMs occasionally go out of service. Sienna is available 24/7. Across the yard, Mark had gathered a small audience for what appeared to be a humorous story. As I approached, I realized I was the subject. So there is poor Sienna, divorce papers in hand, looking absolutely shell-shocked, he was saying, and all he can ask is whether she is keeping the coffee maker they got as a wedding gift. The group erupted in laughter, including my own parents. No one noticed me standing at the edge of the circle, witnessing this mockery of one of the most painful experiences of my life. Emma had moved to the living room with her friends, the new phone now, the center of attention, as they explored its features and took selfies. Not once during the evening had she approached me to say thank you. As the party began to disperse, Amanda caught my arm. Most of the guests are leaving, but the family is staying for a while longer. Would you mind cleaning up the backyard while we move inside? You know where everything goes. Looking at her expectant face, seeing no awareness of how her request landed after everything that had transpired, I made my final decision. Sure, I said, my voice remarkably steady. No problem. She patted my shoulder and turned away, calling out to our mother about making coffee. I spent 30 minutes methodically clearing tables, breaking down folding chairs, and collecting garbage into bags. No one came to help. No one even checked on my progress. When the yard was reasonably tidy, I slipped out the side gate without saying goodbye. No one called after me or texted to check where I had gone. I drove home in silence, the emotional tumult of the day crystallizing into a plan. In my apartment, I moved with purpose. I pulled out a suitcase and packed only essentials, clothes, personal documents, and a few sentimental items that had nothing to do with my family. I gathered my most important electronics and backed up critical data. On my kitchen table, I wrote a brief note, folded it, and placed it in a black backpack along with several other carefully selected items. The backpack would be my final message, my only explanation. At my computer, I spent 2 hours executing the financial separation I had begun at the party. I closed joint accounts, removed automatic payments, canceled shared subscriptions, and updated billing information on essential services to my new email address, created specifically for my fresh start. The task complete, I stood in the center of my apartment, taking a final look around at the space that had been merely a stopping point between family obligations. Tomorrow, this place would no longer be my home. The lease had 3 months remaining, which I had paid in full. Plenty of time for Amanda to figure out new living arrangements when she could no longer afford her mortgage. By 2 a.m., everything was in place. I felt an unexpected sense of calm as I lay down for a few hours of rest before executing the final phase of my plan. For the first time in years, I would wake up answering to no one but myself. Before sunrise, I loaded my car with the items I had packed. The black backpack sat in the passenger seat as I drove across town to Amanda's house. The neighborhood was quiet, houses still dark in the pre-dawn hours. I placed the backpack on her doorstep, positioning it so it would be impossible to miss. Inside was a ledger I had compiled through the night documenting every dollar I had given to or spent on my family over 15 years. The total exceeded $300,000. Alongside this were printed screenshots of text conversations showing their pattern of reaching out only when they needed something, the receipt for Emma's phone, and various other pieces of evidence showing how one-sided our relationship had become. At the bottom of the bag was my note, simple and direct. Now you can see if anyone notices. I had spent the previous evening securing a new apartment, signing a 6-month lease using my business name for privacy. I had accepted a remote job opportunity that had been offered months earlier, one that would allow me to work from anywhere in the country. My new cell phone number was known only to my employer, and the handful of non-family friends I had reconnected with via brief, carefully worded messages. The first week of my new life brought a storm of emotions. Grief mingled with an unexpected sense of liberation. My phone, before I deactivated the number, had exploded with notifications. First came annoyed texts from Amanda asking why her card had been declined at the grocery store. Then increasingly frantic messages about the mortgage payment rejection. By day, 3 voicemails had shifted from irritated to panicked as the full scope of the financial separation became clear. "This is not funny, Sienna. Call me back immediately," Amanda's first message demanded. By the 5th day, "Please, I do not know what is going on, but we need to talk. Emma is asking about you." On the 7th day, we found the backpack. "Please, can we just talk about this? I know things have not been fair to you. Please call me back." I listened to each message but made no response. Every plea triggered moments of guilt. But then I would remember Emma's casual repetition of her mother's words, the room full of laughter, and my resolve would strengthen again. In my new apartment, sparsely furnished but entirely my own, I began establishing routines centered around my needs and preferences for the first time in adulthood. I joined a community cycling group, scheduled regular video calls with friends who had drifted away during my years of family obligation, and started therapy to understand the patterns that had led me to sacrifice my own well-being for people who did not value it. "Your sense of worth became tied to what you could provide materially," my therapist observed during our 3rd session. "You need to develop relationships where the exchange is emotional, not financial." 2 months after my disappearance, I received an email from a cousin who had managed to find my new professional contact information. "Everyone is losing their minds trying to find you," she wrote. "Amanda had to put her house on the market and move to an apartment. Your parents are beside themselves. Is this really necessary?" I did not respond, but I did allow myself to search social media that evening. Amanda's profile showed she had indeed downsized, moving to a 2-bedroom apartment in a less prestigious neighborhood. Emma's posts had shifted from showcasing expensive outings and material possessions to more subdued content. Neither mentioned me explicitly, but the financial impact of my absence was evident. 4 months into my new life, a letter arrived via my workplace address. The handwriting on the envelope belonged to Emma. I considered leaving it unopened, but finally relented, bracing myself for accusations or manipulation. Instead, I found what appeared to be a genuinely reflective note from my niece. "I did not understand what those words meant when I said them," she wrote. "Mom never thought you would hear her say that. We both took you for granted in the worst way. I miss you not because of the things you bought me, but because you were always kind to me, even when I did not deserve it." The letter caused the first crack in the wall I had built. I did not respond immediately, but I saved it, reading it again several times in the following weeks. 6 months after I had walked away, I felt centered enough to consider limited contact. I had built a fulfilling new life with genuine connections. My work performance had improved without constant family interruptions. I had even begun dating again, enjoying the company of someone who appreciated me for reasons entirely separate from what I could provide. At the 8-month mark, after considerable thought and discussion with my therapist, I reached out to Amanda via email suggesting a meeting at a neutral location. Her response came within minutes, agreeing to any terms I set. We met at a coffee shop downtown, Amanda arriving with Emma. Both looked different, more subdued in both appearance and manner. Amanda had taken a second job to cover expenses, and Emma had started working part-time at a local grocery store after school. I do not even know where to begin, Amanda said after an awkward silence. I am so sorry. I never realized how much we all depended on you or how little we gave back. Emma, fighting tears, added, I did not understand the value of money or the value of having someone who cared about me regardless of what I could get from them. I miss you so much, Uncle Sienna. I needed to discover my own worth, I explained calmly. I had become a resource rather than a person in our family. It was destroying me. We talked for 2 hours, establishing tentative parameters for rebuilding a relationship. I made it clear that financial support would not resume, that any future connection would be based on mutual respect and genuine care. They accepted these terms without argument, a sign that perhaps real change was possible. In the year since that coffee shop meeting, we have slowly constructed a new type of family bond. We meet monthly for dinner, sharing updates about our lives as equals rather than provider and dependents. Amanda has found better employment and manages her finances independently now. Emma, approaching 15, shows a maturity and appreciation that her 13-year-old self lacked entirely. My journey taught me that sometimes the kindest thing you can do, both for yourself and for others, is to stop enabling destructive patterns. True family supports your growth and values your presence, not just your presence. I had to disappear completely before they could see me as a person worth noticing. What about you? Have you ever had to walk away from toxic relationships to find your true worth? Please share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of self-discovery and personal growth. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people we love the most.